I've got nowhere to go. I've got no ride anywhere. I don't know how I'm gonna get to work in the morning. I gotta get up at like 5:30 or 6. I don't know why she's doing this.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hey guys, it's ayebeepee and welcome back to my channel. I have my bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a minor in psychology, and I'm gonna say that for the next 24 videos because I'm just so proud of myself. On top of that, I am a board member for a nonprofit called Voices for the Silenced, in which we help people with missing loved ones around the West Virginia area, such as the one we're talking about today, and we help them get resources and just help them navigate this search for their missing loved one. If you have someone that you know that is missing around West Virginia, please get a hold of us and we'll do what we can. Today's case is going to be incredibly frustrating. I've spent hours talking to people about Jack, and it makes me really sad because I really just don't believe he knew how loved he truly was. And I just need to go ahead and let you guys know there is a trigger warning on this video. We are going to hear about drug use, we're going to hear a lot about domestic violence, and we are just going to talk a lot about mental health today. If that's too much for you, I completely understand, but I would go ahead and click off the video now. I also want to say that everyone in this video is innocent until proven guilty. There's a lot of pointing the fingers in this case, and that is just not what I'm here to do. My purpose in making this video is not to blame anybody. It is to help bring awareness to Jack Denny's case and let people have an area where everything about Jack's case is condensed, because right now it is hard to piece everything together. There is not just one area you can find anything. I have spent months looking into this case, and I swear even just a few days ago I'm still finding information that would be relevant to this. This case does have a lot of people that want to stay anonymous, so I will be respecting that because this is a sensitive subject, and with no one being charged, not knowing what even happened to Jack, they do have to think about their safety and they want to be anonymous. So we're going to keep it that way. Just one other thing, there is a person that we are going to talk about a lot. Now, it is Jack's on and off again girlfriend, so please don't go send her nastiness or hate. Again, this is all about awareness. That way his investigation can be just a little bit easier. I reached out to her. We've kind of talked, but nothing in detail. We could never find a time period that, I guess, let's say, worked best for both of us to talk about what happened to Jack. So I do want to also point out this video is not any of her point of view. But I also want to point out, as you will know in a little bit, there was a lot that happened in their relationship, and all that I'm reporting on is one-sided, coming from Jack, coming from screenshots of conversations I saw him talk about the relationship to other people. He reached out to a lot of people. So this video will not contain her side at all. But I'm also not going to use her last name. I don't think that's really fair since I didn't have time to talk to her. She is innocent till proven guilty, just like everyone else in this case. And I know you guys are my little investigators, so I please ask, if you do find out her full name, do not mention it in the comments. Law enforcement is very aware of her relationship situation. I just want to say you don't have to out her name. They know how to get a hold of her if they had any information that solidly pointed to her. And I would just like to emphasize, I'm just a girl with Google, just a girl who talked to people that loved him and cared about him and just want to find out what happened to him. All of this is for the most part allegedly, so just, cover my bases too. But if you have not gathered from this long-winded intro, I am here to talk about the Jack Denny case today. And we have a lot, so let's just get right in. Weiss Jack Denny went missing from Hanley, West Virginia. He was a 33-year-old white male. He was between 6 foot and 6'2" and around 150 to 170 pounds. He had brown eyes, and I think at the disappearance his brown hair was cut fairly short. He also kept his face pretty clean shaven. There wasn't a whole lot of pictures I saw with him with a ton of facial hair. Now, he was very intelligent and just loved so passionately. But the people that knew him said there was about 3 different versions of Jack. There was the kid, the beast, and the real him. So he had a very fun type of personality, very almost impulsive, but he did have a rough side to him, mostly because of his upbringing and just the things he had to go through in life. But then there was the real him, and he enjoyed camping, being outdoors, and he did talk to people in messages about liking to experiment with. He was very open to it, and as you'll see later on, some people say it wasn't technically recreationally anymore. He had formed a habit. There was 2 tattoos of his that I could find, one on his chest and one on his lower side. Now, he did have a family that's a tiny bit complicated. I think I figured it out though. His mom is Beth Denny, and she also was an addict, so there is thought that he was always around. So that's why he didn't see very much of a big deal with it. And he did have a sister, Alyssa. Now, Jack was close to his grandmother. He ended up living with her, from what I understand, a lot of his childhood. And his grandma had lost her own son at around 18 that Jack was named after. So she really took him in and loved him as much as she knew how. And he was raised by Anne, his grandma. That's who he called mom. And she was everything to Jack. Jack loved her so much. Now, Jack also has a daughter, Chloe, which I want to say this video is for. Her mom was the one that reached out to me to really help bring awareness for Chloe's dad. Chloe seems like such a sweet girl, and honestly, she deserves to know what happened to her dad. Now, Jack did have a troubled childhood, like I kind of hinted towards, right? It really caused some trust issues, some self-esteem issues, and some mental issues just altogether. He never really believed he deserved to be loved. Now, Jack also had family in Indiana, like a few cousins, and that's not necessarily important now, but we do bring up Indiana in a little bit. Now, this childhood friend wanted to stay anonymous, but they did get a hold of me to let me know that, yeah, Jack, even at the age of 10, was talking about things that was causing him trauma in his childhood. Supposedly, this is a big reason there was a push for him to go live with Anne, because clearly things had gotten out of control with Beth. Now, Anne was pretty religious, so she didn't necessarily believe in taking Jack to counseling and really working through all of this. She just believed you dove deep into Christianity and that could solve your problems. Now, when Jack was around 17, Beth came to live with him and Anne, which again sent him kind of into a tailspin. Now, it was insinuated to me that this is most likely why Jack ended up moving out of Anne's house. He just didn't necessarily want to be around Beth. He did have plans for his future though, even going as far as talking about wanting to open an HVAC business. And he was known to frequent quite a few of these small towns in West Virginia, like Montgomery, Hanley, and Boomer. But like I said, he is known to be a little bit in Indiana also, from his cousins and such. From what I gather, Jack did have quite a few girlfriends. I mean, no shade, but there were just quite a few girls that I found out he had been with that reached out to me. This one particularly didn't reach out to me, but the story was shared. And I want to mention this one because this one really ties into the girlfriend we'll be talking a lot about. Her name was Kylie, and I'm going to leave her last name out of this also. Her and Jack were together for a while, and they lived in Illinois together. And this guy did end up getting a hold of Kylie on Facebook Messenger around November 2019. And he said, "Hey, I'm pretty sure your boyfriend is hooking up with my wife." A couple months later, she had came back to Madison, West Virginia to visit her family. And this is when a neighbor called her and told her that Tessa was in the apartment in Illinois with Jack. Allegedly. She did ultimately break up with Jack, but let him stay in the apartment so he could save money and get a new place. But after March 6, 2020, she never heard from Jack again. Now, talking to people about Tessa, and honestly, the small interactions I had with Tessa, she's very likable. She's easy to talk to when she talks to you. And from what I understand, in high school and even a little bit after, she was super cool with everyone. She could hang out with literally anyone and everyone, and you'd probably have a good time. She was a creature, well, from what I can understand, she is a creature of the night. I think that's half the reason we had such a hard time kind of pinpointing when we could ever talk. So you really didn't see her go a whole lot of places anymore. And again, I want to preface everything I've learned about Tessa and Jack's relationship was one-sided. This is all coming from his own words, people talking to him and things he had said to other people. I did not get Tessa's side at all. But from what I understand, Jack and Tessa's relationship was extremely toxic. He described her as mentally unwell. He said she would take his stuff and then call him crazy when he's asking her for it. He did say she was misunderstood and said he would have done anything to save her from herself. And he had said that he just wished he didn't bring the worst out of her, that he loved her so deeply and he just didn't understand why she treated him the way he did and why she brought this side out of him too. He said to multiple people that he just mentally didn't feel right anymore after this relationship. He said he had no friends. He had no family. He had lost everyone staying with Tessa. He said that he was slowly isolated and alienated from everyone around him until it was just her. And he said she then started to demand his time like a servant. I do want to preface that it seems like they were mostly never sober together, right? So who really knows what would have happened if they had worked on getting sober together? It could have been a beautiful relationship. Who knows? But it got to the point that they were very, very codependent. They couldn't do anything without each other. And Jack even had talked about not being able to have a job because she didn't like the time away from him. And he would even say that she would scream and cry hysterically. So he would almost be like guilted if he went. And this would go on for hours until he got home. And he talked about what a financial strain this put on the relationship because he had no money. He couldn't even save up when he decided to leave the relationship because he couldn't work. I think there was one job that did let him sleep at his place that he was employed, but he did ultimately end up losing this job also. And these are the things that would cause him to go back to her because he felt like he just couldn't do life by himself, right? So it was this vicious cycle of continuing to go back. But then the cycle would continue. He couldn't go anywhere from his point of view, allegedly, without Tessa losing her absolute shit. He even tried to find jobs that he could walk to because Tessa was his transportation. It was hard. That's hard. I don't know if you understand small towns. There's not always just walking distant jobs in small towns. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what other people told me because evidently this abuse got out of control. Neighbors of Tessa and Jax did get a hold of me that told me some pretty horrific things. I'm not gonna lie. It made my stomach just turn when I heard all this. They said that Tessa would drag him out of the house. Allegedly. She allegedly left him black and blue. And people even talked about seeing Tessa and Jack at this local store, and his face was dark purple, black, and blue. The neighbors said they frequently called the cops on Jack and Tessa for fighting. They heard and seen a lot of their relationship and some of the darkest times in their relationship. They would even say that they could hear Jack screaming help from the house. And just one neighbor alone said they had called 5 times trying to get the cops to help Jack, allegedly. And he had even reached out to neighbors saying that he was being isolated and that she was in fact hurting him. Tessa allegedly would threaten to kick him out or refuse to take him places if he pissed her off as a form of control. And allegedly Tessa even put needles in his work bag to try to get him fired from his job. Now there was a conversation that I'm going to keep anonymous to who it was to that I read of Jack's that said that Tessa was even trying to get her child, I'm not going to say the name or anything, to lie about Jack. The child said that Jack had stole his phone, and Jack was scared to death of getting in trouble for this because it didn't happen, and he was asking to make sure he could get bailed out if something pretty much went sideways, right? He said that he broke the TV, so Tessa started hitting him. Obviously, just a very toxic situation. And he thought maybe the child was doing this as a way to get back at him for that. Now, like I said, there were quite a few of Jack's love interests, I guess is the best way to say it. I don't think he necessarily dated all of them that talked to me. And a lot of them said this was not the normal pattern in Jack's relationships. He actually had stayed friends with quite a few of his exes. He continued to talk to a lot of them, and it wasn't like in a sexual type way. He was truly able to find a friendship with a lot of these girls that he was with. But even to this day, it seems like that is not the case with Tessa. That there is a lot of violent and toxic patterns that happen, whether that is stemming from her, allegedly, or the types of partners she chooses. And there was even someone that put it as her patterns never changed. It was just who lived in that house with her. Now, we do know that Jack at some point was trying to get his life together. He was over this. He had a daughter, Chloe, he couldn't see because this relationship was so violent and toxic and crazy. He didn't feel right bringing her into that. He was trying to find anywhere to go where he didn't have to stay with Tessa. I can't even tell you the number of people that sent me screenshots of Jack asking them if he could stay with them right around when he went missing. He had even said that he lost a lot from having to just trust people in this process. And I mean, his things were stolen. He barely had anything, but he was trying so hard to stay away from this situation he knew was making his life worse. He had talked to multiple people about being scared to be dependent on her. All his stuff was still at her house, his broken down Jeep and all his tools. He had even talked to people about how she controlled who he could speak and couldn't speak to, and would say things like she would be okay as long as he blocked this person and didn't talk to them anymore. But he was very upfront with the fact that he needed her for housing and transportation. So those were his big things to try to focus on to leave. And during this time of being on and off and on and off, Tessa did start seeing another person that I will just refer to as their first name, Josh. Now, this started a little bit before Jack went missing. And I had so many people tell me that they wanted to be anonymous because not only were they scared of what Tessa would do to them, but what Josh would do to them. So just take that information and digest it how you feel. We're going to go backwards to Jack and Tessa's relationship for a minute, okay? Let's go to January 2023. This is peak how bad their relationship was. Jack and Tessa had gotten into a very heated argument. He had told a neighbor that she had gotten furious with him, and it was for, from what he says, very little to no reason, and that she picked at him for hours. Now, the neighbors did see this suitcase on the lawn just getting rained on, so they kind of figured, yeah, something must be happening over there again. And Jack did end up sleeping outside. He was allowed to come back in the morning, and he came in to eat and sleep a little more that next day. And he talked to this neighbor about having to get all his stuff and bring it back on the porch from, I'm assuming, it getting rained on in the yard. He had also said he had this trunk. Remember this trunk. This trunk is a mystery all in itself. I swear to God, I could do a whole video just on his trunk and how weird the behavior is around this trunk, including just like a week ago. Jack said this trunk was at, I guess, a local church, and he needed to walk up there and get it. He did say this would be painful though, because his left hand and ankle was hurt. So that was one big argument that he talked about with people. But then, this is public records, but Tessa was arrested on January 29th, 2023. From the articles and stuff I read, it seemed that Tessa woke up in a bad mood. She started yelling and cussing at him, and then started scratching and biting Jack. Jack ended up barricading himself into the bathroom and called 911. When the police showed up, Tessa was crying and very upset. When they finally saw Jack, he explained that she was asleep, woke up in a bad mood, and attacked him. The police noted that he was bleeding from his face and that there were red blotchy areas. Now, Tessa did say that she was choked and struck in the face, but the deputies noted that there was no signs of her being choked or hit. Now, Tessa was charged with battery and brought to Southern Regional Jail. Don't get me started on Southern Regional Jail. If you have not watched that video, that place is a nightmare. A nightmare. Now, there was a letter sent to the prosecutor mapping out all the abuse Jack had went through. They had noted that he was terrified to speak her name. He was under constant threat of transportation or housing being taken from him, and that Jack's life had to revolve around her. And he even stated to this person, Jack even said that when it felt like she was losing control, that's when the abuse got even worse and a lot more dangerous. Now, Jack ended up getting a DVP on Tessa during this time period. Now, he was the one that was deemed to be able to stay at Tessa's house, and I don't know. I feel like that was Tessa's house. He should have been kind of required to go elsewhere, but that's just my own opinion. But this caused Tessa to have to couch surf because she wasn't allowed at her residence. I did talk to a friend of hers that did tell me that they tried to get her into an inpatient facility at this time. So they bailed her out of jail, but when the day came to, sign in to this facility, she was nowhere to be found. Now, this DVP expired in 30 days, so she was able to get back into her house then. Now, in March 2023, we do know that Jack ended up leaving to go to Kentucky to work. He had a friend that got him a job there, and the guy even was able to get him on his shift, so he had transportation to work every day. So this was great, right? Jack's life was turning around. He was away from everyone down here in West Virginia. He had a good job. I think it was with a utility company, and he had a place to stay. Like, his problems were solved, right? But a lot of people in domestic violence relationships do have a really, really hard time letting go of each other. So him and Tessa did start talking again. He did try to say that he would never go back to her. He said he just couldn't. Like, it was so abusive, and the cops had been called so much, it was almost embarrassing at that point, right? And he was just trying so hard to have a fresh start. He was even thinking about buying this van online to have a car. Now, he was supposed to take his truck to go get this van, but he just packed up all his stuff and just vanished without any warning at all. He had said he would never move back to West Virginia. He said he didn't like the person he became there, and there he was, right back in West Virginia. On April 7th, Jack was seen in town. He was walking down 2nd Avenue when the person stopped and was like, "Oh my gosh, hey, what are you doing here?" And he had really talked about trying to get away from Tessa, trying to just have a fresh start, like we keep hearing. He said he wanted to work on cell towers, but right now he was working with a utility company in Kentucky. And from what this person felt, he was not living in West Virginia. But Jack did not say how he got back, and he definitely didn't mention how long he was staying. So it is possible that Jack had moved back at this time. All he said was that he was in town to visit his mom, which we know is actually his grandma, Anne, and he talked about buying this van. And the person said he looked so good, that he actually looked like he was getting his life together. I could not tell you every single person that Jack reached out to at this time before he went missing, but in the few days and kind of, 1 or 2 weeks before, he talked to so many, and it really broke my heart to see these interactions. He knew something was coming. He just didn't know what. And there were some things in every single message that was the same. He expressed concern of his safety over and over and over and over again. Jack talked about trying to do better with his life, just multiple times to people. But he also said he felt there was no way out of his situation. And he did talk about how he felt he deserved the abuse he was getting. Now, he was very hard on himself in these last conversations. I mean, it was horrific to read. Horrific. He said he had ruined himself. He was very down on himself, saying that he had went against his gut and lost everything, which people insinuated meant he had went back to Tessa. And something he mentioned quite a lot that I want to put the biggest allegedly I have ever made on this channel, but this comes from Jack's messages himself. He had said that Tessa was going to kill him. Now, Jack had reached out to Rachel, which is his daughter Chloe's mom. He was just not great mentally. Let's just say it. He wasn't great mentally. He said he fucked up trusting Tessa again. He had said he was so sorry for being a ghost, especially when it came to Chloe. And again, he said he felt he fucked his whole life up. And he said once again, he felt there was no way out of this life he had. And he was just not sure if he could ever get out of this lifestyle that he had created for himself. He talked about having no self-discipline anymore, and that he just could barely react to arguments or anything. He just emotionally couldn't handle it, couldn't even fight back. He said he had nothing anymore. He said he had no car, no job, no pride in himself. Everything was gone. He said he wanted to better himself, but he just didn't see how he could. And he said, "I'm not crazy and I'm not dangerous." He said he didn't steal, he didn't trespass, he didn't do anything like that. He said that he had made a lot of idiotic choices to be with Tessa. He said the last 6 days had been hell because he just didn't learn. He had said he felt like he was never going to get away, that he was already just so afraid of her because people liked her and people believed her when she would talk about him being abusive and stuff, which I want to preface could also be true. I mean, they both could be telling the truth about the domestic violence in their relationship. Just want to point that out. He said he's not a dangerous person. He said he's not crazy and he's not nervous for no reason. He said he just walked right into things that he didn't deserve. And he said that now when he hears people raise their voice, he immediately walks away or runs. It's such a trigger for him. He also had told Rachel to say sorry to Chloe for staying away. But he told her since him and Tessa had gotten together, he was just unwell and just couldn't be the dad that Chloe needed. He had even mentioned that since him and Tessa got together, he had started doing drugs more and that he should have just never trusted Tessa and Beth. But he did say he was not going to cross Tessa. And he had said, and this was common in a lot of messages, he said, do not cross her. Do not talk to her about this. Do not fuck with her. And always work to stay on Tessa's good side. And now he had been talking to an ex turned really good friend, Destiny. And he had been talking to Destiny for a while during this, just documenting all the abuse that was happening. Now, some of the highlights of this, because I cannot go through everything they talked about. I think it was November. It might have been October 2022. He had sent videos. It was a series of 3 videos explaining a domestic violence situation between him and Tessa.
Right now, I'm sitting in the bathroom. Tessa is downstairs acting like she's hurt, and I haven't touched her, and I don't know. She won't stop like hysterically crying, and the worst thing that's happened to her today is I did not give her enough attention. I came home and began to do my laundry and showered, and then she started and wouldn't stop. I've got nowhere to go. I've got no ride anywhere. I don't know how I'm going to get to work in the morning. I got to get up at like 5:30 or 6. I don't know why she's doing this.
It's interesting to me because it kind of mirrors the exact same situation from when Tessa was arrested. So for him to describe it like these few months in advance and then for it to actually be criminally documented to happen in January 2023. And in another conversation other than these videos, he had even talked about the fact that he had asked Tessa to marry him just in hopes to make her feel more secure in this relationship so this could all calm down. But it didn't really help. She still was very adamant about him not talking to any other girls and that he had made a mistake staying with her. And now I think this is interesting because there was even proof that Tessa was talking about things being off a few days before the disappearance. She said she hadn't heard from him for 3 days and couldn't find him. On April 19th, 2023, he was picked up at the Montgomery Go Mart at about 12 a.m. and he had talked to multiple people this day. He talked to the guy that got him the job in Kentucky. He had went a whole month without saying a word to this man. But he apologized for leaving Kentucky the way he did. He said he knew he messed everything up. He said that he had went back to help Beth move, but just ended up staying. Now he had talked to his friend also this day. He was one of the people that he had asked to stay with when he was trying to leave Tessa. Didn't live on his own, so he couldn't do it. But he did take him a coat, socks, some cold medicine, and food. Jack had told him that he would be around for a few days, and he wanted to know if he wanted to go throw axes or something. He also asked him for his Cash App, that way he could repay him for everything he gave him. But the guy told him he didn't want to be paid back. Like, he was just happy Jack was in a place that he could offer it. But he said, actually, I'm doing awful. He had said he went right back to Tessa and it just fucked him up. He said he was lazy and weak and he was paying for it. He even explained that his stupidity knows no bounds. He said that he had lied to make himself look good to Tessa, which this lie, I don't know. He had told Tessa that he was hooking and just like a bunch of other things that go along with that. And he said he was never going to cross Tessa or anyone around Tessa ever again. He then tried to explain to him, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not out of my mind. He said he has no grudges and there's no ill will towards anybody, which is rich. I mean, he's talking about Tessa and all these messages, but I feel like there's a little bit of a grudge. But he just wanted to do what was right. He did say he was 100% not crazy, but he was just too tired to fight over anything he couldn't control anymore. He did tell him to block him and to not admit it if he believed him. That could be dangerous. And that he was just going to enjoy the sun and do fake. And there are quite a few people that said he was acting strange at this point. Very strange, very paranoid. It was out of character, and it almost seemed like he was doing. Jack had said to multiple people he talked to this day that Tessa was in his head. He just could not get her out of his head. But we do know Jack had his backpack, his wallet, and his pistol with him. Now, on April 20th, 2023, he was visiting his mom and grandma in Hanley. Now, there is a rumor that him and his mom had gotten in a pretty bad fight this day. Jack was allegedly messaging Tessa during this day also, and he really wanted her to come pick him up. And allegedly, he ended up calling her from a random person's phone number saying he needed to go to the hospital. He thought that someone was trying to mess with him on his walk from Hanley and accidentally pepper sprayed himself. And again, is this evidence that mentally he was not doing well? Supposedly when she got there, he got in her car and he immediately started talking about Beth. He had thought that Beth, I guess, was trying to get him in trouble somehow. And he then supposedly thought Tessa was in on it. So he took off on foot down the street and Tessa put her car in park and ran after him. And evidently at this point, Jack looked like filthy and scared, so she didn't want, someone to think he was dangerous and maybe even cause harm to him. Like, she was trying to just get him to calm down and get back in the car. But he was kind of sneaking around and hiding in bushes and things like that, trying to get away from Tessa. She realized this was definitely making things worse, right? Definitely making things worse. So she got back in her car and pretty much just sat there, and I'm pretty sure took a nap, but she was hoping that he would calm down and get back into the car. And around 6:30 p.m. it's thought that he left his mom's house to go walk to the Cavalier Heights apartments to meet with a guy named Donnie. Now, these would be in Montgomery, so it was the town just over. Now, no one's really sure if he ever made it there. Donnie says he definitely did not. There were quite a few people that said he made it there, but then he left with 2 other people. Now, it is rumored that someone did see Jack this night. They said he went to Walmart and helped Jack pick out a phone. Then supposedly he was dropped off near the Dollar General in Hanley, which was near Ann's house. And supposedly, out of his own mouth, he said that Tessa was going to kill him. Allegedly, he said he was not playing about this. But I also want to point out that this day, April 20th, 2023, Tessa was actually brought to South Charleston from what I understand. She had went to the dispensary and used her card to buy some weed, and supposedly there is a receipt for this to prove that she was there, but again, we just couldn't figure out a time to talk. The person that brought her there said that they dropped her off around Rock Lake. Even though I don't necessarily look too much into this because I know how small towns in West Virginia work, everybody knows and is related to everybody. A lot of people did mention that it was a little weird that the person who gives Tessa an alibi is cousins with the last person Jack might have seen, Donnie. But yeah, Jack is now missing. Nobody knows where he is or heard from him. From what I understand, it took about a month to file a missing person report because Jack was known to go out into the woods for a few days and camp. And unfortunately, we all know that someone who uses drugs can disappear for a little bit. So it did take a while for him to be reported missing based on behavior that he had before. There was also a lot of people that thought he might still be in Kentucky, that he had moved away. Why is everyone making such a big deal out of this? But the day after the missing person report was filed, Tessa and Beth started posting all over Facebook about Jack, bringing awareness to Jack and him being missing, asking, does anybody know where he is? Now, there were rumors that Jack might be with family in Indiana, and there was some confusion because I'm pretty sure it was Tessa that had posted he was found because she thought this reliable source had told her he was there, but he wasn't. Now, this all is 100% alleged. I have no proof of any of this. This is just what was told to me. Let me put that out there. But when talking to neighbors again, they said this night that Jack went missing April 20th. Well, probably more like 21st at this point, early morning hours. They saw Tessa and a few different men scrubbing the front porch. And I'm talking 2 a.m., April 21st. And there was this huge area rug hung up on the fence outside, cleaning it for 2 days. They had also said they had seen her painting the front porch 2 different times in a very short time period. The first one was a few months after he went missing, and the second time was summer 2024. And I want to point out that at this time period, hardly anybody knew Jack was missing because it wasn't filed until a month later. So them cleaning this porch, doing the area rug, like, yeah, it was weird, right? It was weird, but there was no reason for them to think anything of it. Now, for a while, his trunk, the trunk that he had at the church, I think it was, sat on Tessa's porch. I mean, for a long time, until December 2024. Actually, just a little bit after I started posting about Jack and bringing awareness to him again. And ironically, just a few days before Tessa got a hold of me for the first time. And from what I understand from family and friends, he took that trunk everywhere. That's what he kept his belongings in. So anytime he would move, it was with him. And clearly Jack was a very social person. Even if he felt isolated, he was very much reaching out to people and talking to people, especially in these last few days before he went missing. He was talking to everyone that would listen to him. Anyone and everyone. But his Messenger and Facebook just goes completely dark after the 20th. Now let's get into the investigation a little bit. I can never figure out how to get a hold of Beth, but from what I understand, I think she tried to report Jack missing on April 29th, and they just kind of, as police do sometimes, blow it off in a way and just be like, wait a few days, if you haven't heard from him, then give us a call back. Now, there was an official missing person report filed on May 8th, 2023. I had heard Tessa did this, but I've also heard Beth did this, so I'm not sure which one, but one of those two did try to get the ball rolling on Jack. Supposedly there was an officer that looked in the woods behind his house and they found his red blanket, but they couldn't find his tent, which is what he would be using if he was camping. Supposedly there was rumors going around that Tessa had his backpack with his gun in it and that she had taken it on April 20th. Tessa had shown up that day and tried to fight with him around noon. This is when she grabbed the backpack and ran out the door. Now, mostly everyone, including Jack's daughter, found out via Facebook that Jack was missing. And they did do multiple searches, but there was just nothing that came of it. Now, Tessa, from what I understand, did help with these searches. She was very involved, and they just couldn't find anything. So it is rumored that as soon as Jack went missing, Tessa lawyered up. I did somewhat throw this comment into messages with her, saying I didn't know if I should reach out because I heard she had a lawyer over all this. And she never denied, or she actually just didn't even say anything about that. So I'm not sure exactly how true this is, but either way, always get a lawyer if you are dealing with the police. Let me just get on my soapbox about that right now. Always get a lawyer. Always. Innocent, guilty, always get a lawyer and people should quit thinking that's weird if you do. But police had made comments that this is why they couldn't openly talk to Tessa about what happened to Jack, and supposedly never really did get a good statement from her about her and Jack's relationship or what could have happened in those last few days. She seemed to really actually help in the searches. She seemed active in the investigation and bringing awareness to him in the first, few weeks or so. She tried to say that the last thing he said to her was that he hated Donnie, and she had said that Jack had said the last few times he was hanging out with Donnie was like half speaking to him, like it was weird between them, and had even said that Donnie was not what he seemed. She had said that she had gotten contact with a trooper Schoolcraft, and evidently Schoolcraft was very familiar with the Upper Kanawha Valley area, familiar with Montgomery, and had looked at different leads, such as even a compound that was flooded. She checked to see, and Jack was not there. And evidently Trooper Schoolcraft even went into some of these areas in Montgomery that maybe weren't the best and talked to people to see if they had seen Jack. And all of this came up with nothing. Now, from what I understand, Tessa has said she is completely cleared as being a suspect. And she says that she did give them all the information she knows. Neighbors did say the police never came to speak to them, even after the multiple domestic violence calls that they received from them leading up to him being missing. They did see them one time talking to Tessa in the neighborhood, and one neighbor did end up going to the lead investigator to talk to them about what she knew. Why were they not questioning her? Now, the manager at the Cavalier Heights Apartments did say they had an incident a few days before he went missing with Jack. She said that there were some weird comments being mentioned from his girlfriend and I think aunt that gave them a weird feeling that they reported to the police. The manager had contacted Montgomery police, so they told her to talk to Hanley police. And she called and left a voicemail, but never heard anything back from them. Tessa had said his sister, Alyssa, had hinted towards him being found, and it was supposedly right next to this compound that they used to hang out at. She had said that the building burnt down before this, and it was a car shop at the mouth of the holler. Now, Sergeant Robinson had said that they had brought drug dogs to that area, and they had even went to the compound, but they found nothing. Now, on April 22nd, just 2 days after Jack went missing, right, she had borrowed her friend's truck under the thought that she was going to go pick her child up. But that actually never happened, and she went and got Josh instead. Tessa did get pulled over in South Charleston with Jack's backpack in the car, and his gun, and his wallet. Now, Josh was actually the only one arrested, and let's talk about this damn trunk for a minute. My God. So this trunk had sat on Tessa's porch for years by the time I started looking into this case, or at least a little bit over a year. Now, I do have a video that was sent to me of someone carrying Jack's trunk off just, honestly, I think a week ago. Today is April 6th, filming this, so yeah, probably at the end of March, I would say. And I did have people I reached out to maybe try to find this trunk, but it's just, I'm afraid, long gone, when honestly it could have been the only things left of Jack, and it would have been really nice for Chloe to have it. Now let's get into some theories. There's different search areas people talk about. The London Locks is one of them. And then there's also this swamp at Swaller Holler. It's an old sludge pond, and people say do not go there without a gun. And I've also heard there are a lot of people that watch that area to see who goes in and who goes out. They do say that Jack might be running away from some dangerous people. He was in this lifestyle that wasn't great, right? And he's very open with the fact that he didn't mind experimenting, which he actually enjoyed it. He enjoyed the escape. rape. This could also be why he was reaching out to people in such a frantic to go stay with them. That, yeah, he did talk a lot about Tessa, but is he really going to say someone dangerous is after him if he's needing a place to stay with someone? And there was even rumors that he might have been doing jobs with people in Indiana or Kentucky for human trafficking, and that's really why it was so bad. One or two people talked to me about this E from Dunbar. That's his nickname. People say if he did anything to Jack, it was related to drugs, and they had mentioned that supposedly this guy E also knew Tessa somehow, so it was like Jack was kind of linked to him. That's not really one I lean towards either. This one is crazy. But I do want to discuss it because it did kind of blow up a little bit on TikTok. People sent it to me. Multiple people sent it to me. So I just want to go ahead and address this here.
The 20th of 2023, a young man from Handley, West Virginia, went missing. His name was Jack Denny. He has not been found. What's fascinating about this is this man, I don't know him, never met him, never heard of him. This is just a circulating news article and a concerned neighbor. I lived in Montgomery, West Virginia at the time, which is literally the next town. I don't expect many people not from West Virginia to know what this is like, but these are tiny little company towns. Montgomery was a university town until the university moved to another city and kind of just left that town behind. Handley, literally just like, the border of one town enters another. It's just like a conglomeration of tiny towns. Handley is also another one of these tiny little towns. It's right there. It's the next thing you enter as you leave Montgomery. You have the Kanawha River, and it's not far from where the New River happens, but or where the New and the Gully come together to form the Kanawha. But anyways, there's Montgomery, Smithers, Handley, Cannleton Hollow. There's a few tiny little towns right there in that area. And it's just a thing where, like, let's say you've been, you've had the local law enforcement of Montgomery called on you because you violated bond and you've continued to harass someone you're not supposed to be near, and they just kind of are understaffed, so they don't do anything more than just follow you across the city line until you don't come back. It's like that, right? Bumfuck ya. So it's kind of how it happens there. Anyway, so this, if anybody's been watching, there's a video taken from my security cameras on my front porch in Montgomery around that time. Very, very close to that time. Anyways, I know someone who really enjoyed party and play, right? Allegedly, this young man had been dealing with addiction. And it's a thing where, a man may be interested in women, otherwise may have children, may have been married at some point. I don't know this man's story, but he was straight, right? Whatever. But a user. So the thing that happens with a lot of people who use is they end up, the gender lines become less important when it comes to their need for pleasure, because there's an idea that there may be some Appalachian booger sugar to get out of the deal. This young man did hitchhike. He was known to be a hitchhiker, and I know somebody who was a big fan of picking up hitchhikers and offering them rides, and then getting some enjoyment with them. Anyways, this young man has been missing for a long time. There's a strange little pond in the middle of, not really the woods, it's kind of a cleared out area where the city of Charleston dumps a lot of fallen trees, cleared trees, whenever they're like street crews or groundkeeping crews get a lot of, you know, fallen trees, tree limbs, dirt piles, gravel, things like that. This is just a random place behind the hospice house where they dump these things, but there's this strange pond there. It's not, and the word pond is something that I'm using very liberally because it's kind of almost like a bulldozer has dug a giant hole and next to it is a giant mound of the dirt that came from that hole. It's often been said by somebody that I used to be very close with but now no longer can stand that that's a very dangerous hole. Who knows what's in there? You could put a body in there and no one would ever know. Don't fall in. It's quicksand. It's very deep. Lots of strange things, right?
His ex, ironically enough, is a crime reporter, so that's interesting. He would know where to do something with Jack and where to put him and what to do and all of that. And from what I understand, his ex might have been slipping into a psychosis. Whether that's drug related or not, you figure it out. He didn't really ever think his ex knew Jack. It was just an opportunity of events, I guess. He also said it's very possible his ex has nothing to do with it. It's just a hunch he had that he wanted to talk about. But he did mention the sludge pond I was talking about in Swaller Holler, so I did think it was interesting that that was at least tied into another theory. But again, that's all allegedly. I don't even know how much of that is true, but I did think it was interesting and needed to at least be discussed a tiny bit. So these last few theories, I just want to say, I feel like any of them could be possible. It's very possible that he overdosed. He was experimenting with drugs. He was getting paranoid, which, like a few people said, it seemed like he was almost on meth again. And, you know, he was just not doing great there those last few days. He had mentioned, you know, to his friend in Kentucky that if he went back to West Virginia, he would go back to this stuff. And an unfortunate truth about that world is when people overdose with a group of people, most of the time those people don't call 911 in fear of getting in trouble. They usually just leave the person where they're at, or they hide the body, or they do things like that because they are so scared of being charged with murder when it was really just an accident. But another theory that could be very, very possible that's hard to stomach is that it really could have been a too. His mental health was out of this world bad, horrific, and he said multiple times he felt there was no way out, that he was stuck in this lifestyle forever and that he would suffer for the rest of his life. He was not happy with where he was, and I think it's proof that it had been a while that he had felt this way, and that stuff can just wear down on you. He had even went as far to say that he didn't want Chloe to see him like this. Like, he wasn't seeing his own child because he felt he was so unwell and that he was in such a dangerous situation. He did not want to subject her to it. He said multiple times he would never ever get away from this relationship. It was a bad time for him. And then, of course, what mostly everyone I talk to thinks, and I do unfortunately think this could be possible too, is he was part of the domestic abuse cycle, and that unfortunately a lot of people don't make it out alive of the domestic abuse cycle. I want to be careful on how I say this, because I do think when you're in an abuse cycle like this, that a lot of the times, even if someone is hurt, killed, whatever, it's not like premeditated or even meant to happen. Like, I think things just get so bad and things escalate so fast in these situations that it just blows up. I think something could have happened to Jack and that not even be the intention. Now, granted, he was even saying to literally almost every person he talked to, I can only name maybe like 2 or 3. And I mean, he was talking to like almost 20 plus people that Tessa was going to kill him. But I do feel like when you're in a abuse, like especially a physically abusive relationship, you think that. You truly think there is any day that could be your last. Like I said, I can never talk to Tessa. I don't know her side, what she has to say about all this. I think at the end of the day, like, Chloe just deserves to know what happened to her dad. I do want to say, from what I understand, this case is still active. And there are actually like a lot of outlets still looking into him. Night Owl Consonance has looked into him. That's a operation that looks into missing people around America. Voices for the Silenced, of course, the nonprofit I work with, we have looked into it. But Chloe is desperate to know what happened to her dad. What child wouldn't be? And she just really deserves answers. I don't know how else to put that. She deserves answers. I have so much respect for Chloe and her mom, Rachel. Rachel has been phenomenal all through this. Phenomenal. And Rachel is such a strong woman to help her daughter navigate through this horrific situation I hope no one has to go through. And if you know anything, even if you think it's just tiny, please send in a tip. Talk to them. You can contact the West Virginia State Police, Trooper Hunt at the South Charleston Detachment at 304-558-7777. Sally Hatton is also listed on NamUs. His NamUs number is MP 105024. And if you'd much rather stay anonymous, you can get a hold of me at Alexandra at voicesforthesilence.org, or my YouTube email is unsolvednwv@gmail.com. But please, if you know anything, please get a hold of somebody and say something. Every detail in this case was scattered, but when I put it all together, it made everything make sense. And there's still obviously some holes. You can help fill those holes. We can find Jack. I'm convinced we can find Jack, or at least what happened to him. So please share this video, reach out if you know anything, and keep his story alive. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe for me, and hit that notification button. That way you're notified the next time I upload. I still have a GoFundMe going for Crystal Young. If you have not watched that video yet, you need to, so you know why her mom needs this PI so bad. I still have stickers for sale. They're $2 each, and all proceeds go to the Cold Case Foundation, so it is for a good cause. And thank you guys again for listening to Jack's case. I know this was a long one and it was heavy. But thank you guys for sticking around, and thank you for all the support. I'll see you in the next one.